But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello, everybody. As we get everyone populated on the screen, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Oh, hey.
Hey. We are live. This is the World Blockchain Roundtable, where we have discussions primarily about blockchain and blockchain solutions to real current events. And this is also the first and longest running DAO show in the world, or podcast in the world. We're on episode 224 today, and each episode represents a week. So this is 224 weeks of a DAO-based podcast. Today's topic, voted upon by the DAO, is technocracy prevention using blockchain. Just so happens to be nominated by I Am for I Am, the host today for the show. Joined with me here next to me is Andrew Joseph from the Legacy Right. Hello, Andrew. Litecoin Lisa, the mighty Lisa Davis. Welcome, Lisa. Underneath Lisa there is Aaron Day. Thank you, Aaron Day, for joining us again. Zach is also joining us. He's the I guess the guy with the conspiracies with Andrew on the Legacy Right, where they joined forces to take over the world. Then we have Satoshi Sean directly underneath me, everybody's friend. And rounding the table at the bottom there, pulling us all up with his intellect and wisdom, is Greg from Rivet. So there is the panel today. How's everyone doing?
Doing pretty good, thank you.
Right. Fabulous.
Unfortunately, Joe couldn't make it today. He's doing a talk at a university.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I texted him, telling him I was running late, thanks to this lovely Hackintosh that still runs.
Right. And I have all kinds of different coffee here. So every time someone says matter, I have to take a sip, including a big tall glass of water. So the question is, will people say matter more frequently and to larger than my bladder can hold?
I was going to say, you might need an intermission.
I don't know. Does it even matter?
Stop it.
It does matter.
Different forms of it count. Like if I say immaterial, does that mean that I've mentioned matter and therefore you have to say
just did.
No,
I
because
was
it's
twice
matter.
as opposed to once in that last sentence?
Antimatter, he has to spit.
By the way, matter, the reason I do that is because Den.Social, where you can log in and post questions to the panel, has a token. It's called Matter. And I happen to be the DinDAO leader for Den.Social. Hence the reason for the little, drink game for myself of every time matters. Yeah.
So it is
all
material.
right. We've got that out of the way.
That's
now,
why it matters.
Yes. I'm going to bank that one, Sean. I'll come back to you. Last week's show, let's take a look at our notes here. We had blockchain solutions for a world governing body. Each host received 66 lot. That's Lair ownership tokens. And each topic contributor last week received 58 lot. Last week's theme was nominated by Greg, and he will also receive an additional 58 lot. Remember, these are ownership tokens in the show, in the podcast. So you have ownership in the podcast and can have governance votes, perpetual passive income, and free edits. And that's kind of how it works on Den.Social. All right. And again, today's episode, I've been really excited about this. I think I posted this maybe 2 months ago for this one. And I'm really grateful that we have a resident expert on this subject matter, which is Aaron. Thank you so much, Aaron. It's technocracy prevention using blockchain. And we're going to get into the details with questions with that. And then that'll be followed up by current events, if time permits. So are we ready?
Ready.
Let's go.
Let me,
Yeah.
I got to, I didn't share my screen here. Bear with me as I do that real quick. All right.
Oh, and do you want to turn on comments that roll in the bottom corner?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that in the edit section up here. If I can find it again.
And I will say
Thank
I might
you.
have to leave a little bit earlier. I'm getting ready for my podcast tonight, and I have a whole bunch.
Oh,
of
yeah. You got a big one tonight on
Not
Zano.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right. Let me
Well,
zoom in.
can you
What's it
let
on?
me know when that is? I wanna listen to it. 'Cause
It's
I
at
like
6
Zano.
p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Cool. Where's it at? Is it? It's like a Spaces or?
No, it'll be on X. I'm using StreamYard, so it'll be on X, Rumble, YouTube,
Okay.
Twitch, which I think all of 2 people will see.
Wherever good times are not really had because they sort of all suppress this kind of content still at every place.
Exactly.
Okay. Before we jump into it, some of the audience may not know the definition of technocracy. And I thought it was going to be ironic if I used AI to answer this question. So first, I'm going to go over the real quick brief answer or definition of technocracy. Then we can pick it apart on what AI says. But it says the definition of technocracy. Oh, by the way, after this definition, we'll go into the questions for the panel. Definition of technocracy. A technocracy is a system of government or management where decision makers are selected based upon their expertise, knowledge, or skills in specific technical or scientific fields, rather than through political processes like elections. In a technocracy, policies and decisions are primarily driven by data, scientific principles, and technical proficiency, aiming for efficiency and problem solving over an ideological or popular considerations. The term is derived from the Greek words techne, or skill or craft, and kratos, rule of power, meaning ruled by experts. Almost sounds like merit system. A technocracy, while emphasizing expertise, efficiency carries several potential dangers as a form of government. Dun, dun, dun. Lack of democratic accountability, elitism and exclusion, narrow focus on efficiency, risk of bias in expertise, vulnerability to a technocratic overreach, suppression of dissent, fragility of systematic errors, inequality, resource allocation, inequitable resource allocation, and it can resemble a government formed and controlled by oligarchs. Dun, dun, dun. So that's it. First, the definition of technocracy before we go into it.
Kind of got
You want to
to
poke some holes in this definition?
you kind of got to define oligarchs then.
It misses a lot of the historical aspects of the movement. That's something I noticed, because it's actually a movement that has people associated with it that are tied to American history in ways that are obfuscated by the technical definition of technocracy. It takes out all of the sausage making bits, and I feel like that's the important part.
Yeah. Good point. I thought it was, because I had to actually push it to tell me, all right, tell me some of the bad here. What's the problem with Technocracy? Because it went into a lot more than I posted here, but it seemed to give it a lot more. By the way, on this one, I used Grok. And so it provided a lot more fluff and positive attributes. And I
Did you
Well, I wonder why.
can we ask either the panel or an AI if the panel doesn't know, where did it come from? Where's Technocracy? Who came up with the idea of Technocracy, and in what context did it come up? Like, how does that matter to why you should think about it differently? Because I feel like that's what makes it sinister, honestly.
Well, there's actually a really long history on this, and the best resource for this is Patrick Wood, who actually did a Technocracy boot camp on this. It's actually structured as almost a college course on Technocracy, and so he talks about the philosophical roots and who influenced it. But it really took off as a movement in the early 1930s in the basement of Columbia University. And when it came about during the Depression, and you had basically a group of people that got together and thought, well, hey, here's a new way to organize society through technocracy. One thing that was missing in the definition is that one of the primary features of technocracy is to completely change the economic system from being a price-based system, supply and demand, to being a system that's completely run on energy credits. This is actually a cornerstone functionality of technocracy. So this group formed in Columbia, and it turns out the guy that headed this up lied about his academic credentials, which is interesting for a group that's supposed to be about experts and so forth. And so it kind of stumbled a bit, but then it got picked back up in the early 1970s by Brzezinski and David Rockefeller through the Trilateral Commission, and it's been on a very fast rate of adoption without people knowing about it ever since.
Right, because they made the Frankenstein's monster connection, that you put that into sort of the official religion of the professional managerial class, and you get a machine you can subvert the whole system with.
Why do they kind of group as the resident dumb guy? I'd like to ask, why do they kind of group it all in with oligarchy? I've always been kind of, it was more of a utopian, life utilizing technology and more academics. I would think, like you were talking about, now that makes a lot more sense, that academics came up with it in the basement of a university, that you couldn't write that any better. But that's kind of how I always saw it. Whereas oligarchs, I think so many of them literally have their power from the old system, and they would want to keep that old system.
Well, they fall prey to the smearing too of I just want to throw this in, the smearing too of individuals into averages and medians and statistical analysis of people as if they were atomic units that you could measure independently of the fact that they have human minds and dignity, right? Yeah. And so they assume that there is inefficiency in inequality as opposed to efficiency in it.
Right.
And therefore optimize with the PMC mindset towards this kind of equality. And that's why, technocracy implemented a sensible quote, right? Way to measure expenditures of energy that they could then mete out what they saw as efficiently, which was equally to their minds.
Sean, I was going to say that people probably thought of technocracy, or may still think technocracy it's that the machines are in control, or the computer, and they're making the decisions for us, rather than a bunch of wealthy oligarchs.
No, that they think it is that, but it is more academic oligarchs. It's not just all oligarchs. It's kind of like the people that know best,
except for Georgetown conquered DC in 1943.
Like everything is our lives are made better by machines that the wealthy few create and control.
I think of it now in the form of the machines are controlling they're like the money printing machines, and if you control the money printing machine, then you're obviously an oligarch. And have deep reaching, power to manipulate those those in charge or in power in governments. Aaron, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, to me, everything this boils down to what's going on right now is it's freedom versus technocracy. And what's at stake is free will, because technocracy doesn't support individual choice or individual rights. It actually says, yeah, you're too stupid to make your own decisions. And so where it ends up is you end up with this energy credit based system and economy. And then you have a social credit system, which is a system of penalties and rewards tied to that energy credit system. So it basically takes away your ability to make decisions about your own life. And now it's evolved to moving towards AI, but the technocrats, it did start out academic, but then the people that have been pushing it are, people like Rockefeller and a lot of other institutions since the 1970s. And so now you have the champions of it are, interestingly, come from the right and the left. You have Curtis Yarvin from the right, and then you have Yuval Noah Harari from the left, both essentially pushing technocracy. So there's an aspect of this where there's a Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates angle, but there's also a Peter Thiel, Elon Musk angle. And unfortunately, we've gotten to the point, I made the mistake. I turned on Alex Jones for some reason yesterday, and he was ranting about how we're defeating the globalists. And he never talks about the fact that the PayPal mafia, which has essentially taken over the Trump administration, is pushing the very same agenda that he claims he's been trying to fight for decades.
Yeah. Or meanwhile, how about Roman Storm sitting in freaking jail, undergoing a ridiculous trial where they pretend like speech can be a component of an act in furtherance of a conspiracy under Section 1960. Like that, while they're saying the war on crypto is over. Like, what are people doing? We're just ignoring the fact. It's a similar kind of ignorance, I think, with technocracy, right?
Speaking of pushing it, something I've become jaded in my old age. Not as jaded as Joe, but I'm pretty jaded. And I've always I loved sci-fi since I was a little kid, and there's always been this push in sci-fi in the future. Either things are utopian and perfect, like Star Trek, or things are corporation based, like in Alien. Corporations took over. Governments may still be there, but they have very, not anywhere near as much power. Everything's corporate run. So I think technocracy is kind of being fed to us over in the media for decades to kind of accept as a better alternative to the governing systems that we've had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else want to mention anything about the definition before we go into questions for the panel?
I did. I thought it was very concerning that it said the decisions are primarily, the word primarily, driven by data, scientific principles, technical prophecy, and then aiming. So primarily and aiming are not very specific words. And that when you have a system of governing, which that's what I'm understanding this technocracy to be, with that kind of wiggle room, that like Aaron said, the concerns of your rights being trampled on, and that gives the powers that be a lot of space to do whatever they want. There's no accountability there, because they were primarily driven by data and they were aiming for efficiency, but they could
read it as the exact
with
opposite,
that. Like
Lisa.
the manipulation of data. You see that we've seen that in the big pharma. You can see that in any study. They can make the numbers look. What do you want the numbers to look like? Well, who's paying for the study? And those numbers can look like whatever they want. So they could manipulate this data to point whatever direction they want the control to be, the mechanism to be. That's the concern for me with this.
And it can be worse than that too, Lisa. It can be manipulated in a way where it's anticipating a negative reaction in a direction it wishes you to negatively react, right? So it might not even be that it tricks you into believing in something so much as it tricks you to resisting the things they wish you to be resisting when they wish you to do it.
I understand what you're saying, but I read it the opposite. I read it as that it's supposed to, that like it could be driven by, hey, we need to lower, we don't have enough food to feed everybody, and there's too much pollution, kill half of everybody. That would be completely efficient and completely driven by data. But
Yeah.
aiming for that means no, we can't kill half the people. We got to find some
Right.
other way. So it
Utilitarianism
leaves that
collapses on the edge cases.
wiggle room the other way.
Yeah.
I can definitely see what you're saying when it comes to the data.
Well, and again,
All right.
Sci-fi.
the problem
As
is
a
that.
sci-fi nerd myself. Go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as a sci-fi nerd myself, like Sean was saying with like Star Trek and what they pretty much set up the course for, I find it putting it into perspective towards like Valis with PGAT and how it's society's just being driven by data. I mean, you're controlled by data from what you do, how you act, and they're traversing this all from you just being on a screen.
Don't get me started on the tyranny of the empirical as a concept for truth finding.
So, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I was going to say, once again, it doesn't value free will at all. And so because of that, this is the hardest thing to describe to people. And I think one of the most frustrating things is to watch what happened with Doge. People thought Musk was going to go in and cut government. And that's not what he was even. Musk is a technocrat. He's stated it explicitly about Mars. His grandfather was the head of the Canadian Technocracy Party. This is how he kind of grew up.
No, he believes in it. It's true.
And he truly believes in it. So Doge, what did Doge do? It didn't save any money, but it did connect Palantir to the IRS. It did connect Palantir to other government agencies to collect data and help facilitate creating this American database about Americans. And then what did Musk do? He left and started America's Party, which had two primary goals, which the first two were, let's apply AI to the military and let's apply the AI to making government more efficient. It looks like a technocracy manifesto. And of course, as I predicted, he ended up saying, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to endorse JD Vance, who is also a technocrat and basically a puppet.
And totally going to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The question
All
I
right.
have real quick is historically, Congress, when it was first set up, you were supposed to elect these people who were masters of their skill, as it says here in the definition, to rule through power, and they were supposed to negotiate plans for how businesses and everything is supposed to, and that fell apart. And I don't know how we go through this again and not expect it to not fall apart. Like, it's a revolving door. I mean, even the elections.
They're still trying to build perfect situational awareness at arbitrary complexity. It's freaking impossible. It's the dumbest pursuit. That's why they'll fail and why they'll waste every bit of society's resources doing it. That's the danger. Not that they'll succeed, but that when it burns out, it will have consumed everything.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, like real life is not Star Trek, so things are going to fall apart while at the same time they're consolidating for a upper echelon of elite to at least have some variation of what they want. That's essentially what it's all about.
Their vision is scale the GPUs as far as the Earth's resources will allow.
Mm-hmm. And it's a global situation. It's not even about the U.S. There's no sovereignty issue. Yeah. This is the one thing people are caught up in. It's U.S. versus China. I encourage people to do research on all the investments that Elon Musk and Peter Thiel have in China. These people are not these people don't view China as an enemy. They're partners. China is largely a test case for technocracy, but you have people in America that are like, oh, well, we've got to beat China. In fact, this is the justification for the march to AGI. So what is everybody saying now? Whoever gets to AGI first wins. Well, what does AGI mean? AGI means whoever gets to the point where they move AI to be able to govern people first wins. Right. And they're using patriotism as the rallying cry to, basically, do things like give liability shields to AI companies and to hyper accelerate. I mean, watch what's going to happen with electricity prices and water shortages over the next 12 to 24 months because of this.
Oh yeah.
It works.
Because they're literally trying to juice power generation by slamming the supply just so they can have electricity. Like, they're going to put plants next to the GPUs, right?
Yep.
And they're just going to have nuclear plants that they can modularly expand using fifth generation reactors, right? Well, those are neat in one way. Like, they're neat in one way because humans can use them modularly, right? That means they can be decentralized. But It also means that you can expand them infinitely in one centralized site as long as you're willing to spend the money, right?
Well, it also
So they can Lego them together there and then build AI that they believe, if they brute force with more power, will ultimately result in an emergent intelligence that will save them all by understanding all of complexity space, right? The entire configuration space of reality would be open like the infinite clockwork universe of the pre-quantum science era, where they're trying to pursue the equation that solved reality. They're at it again.
Doesn't it matter what kind of plant that they, not plant, but what kind of like using the term reactor. So like there's the driest desert ever. I think it was in Chile, and they just built these energy plants that are pulling hydrogen. They're pulling the water basically out of the driest desert in the world and creating power from it. And so if we have new energy sources, that might be a game changer as well. That might change the narrative. I mean, I'm not pushing for technocracy.
Well, I mean, their hope is to solve fusion, frankly.
Well, they've already they have Moxie fusion. That's already been proven.
Right. But as a power generation system they can rely on. Once they have that, then
they do have
it gets a lot cheaper for them to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move into the questions. I've already refreshed, and the first question comes from Kiff's Crypto, and it is question: do you still believe that power consolidation is, by whatever means, preventable? Now, is technocracy going to happen, and or can it be prevented? Because it sure seems like power is consolidation is always going to happen. More people move to centralization.
I think you said it earlier.
Should we switch to the timer since we got so many people?
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. We're gonna switch to timers here due to the a lot of people. We'll go down. We'll start with you, Andrew. Let me
can I make one audible call? Can I make one? Can we give Aaron timerlessness and just ask him to make complete ideas? Because I don't want to cut him off in a minute of talking.
That'd be great. All right, I'll let Aaron finish the question after everyone goes. How's that on this one? All right, Andrew, you're up.
I defer to a recent episode Michael Malice is on. He was talking about in England how they're arresting people for Facebook posts, and it was his opinion, and I think it's a very concise and wise opinion, that once you start censoring speech overtly through censorship by arresting people, then that means it's opening up a free market and violence. So, I mean, I don't think it's the right thing, but it's an inevitable outcome of censorship through jail people.
Good point, Lisa.
I'm going to defer my time to Aaron because I really want to move this along. I think that we all kind of feel the same way on this question, but
yeah.
Okay. I have one particular point to make on it.
Hold on. Zach.
Wait, what? Amigo? Okay.
Yeah. Power consolidation. Is it going to happen?
Do people still believe that power consolidation is, by whatever means, preventable? I don't think so. I think most people, most normies, the majority of everybody, they don't understand the problems that we're facing in today's world that could potentially lead to a neo-feudalist state that actually, for the most part, is probably going to cause their uninstallment. So I'm going to go ahead and yield the rest of my time to Sean, but that's my answer.
All right. Sean.
I don't think it's preventable, but I think the word is stoppable, not preventable. I think that, like Andrew said, it's past time to, and like you said earlier this week, completely agree. It's past. We can't fix it anymore. So if you want to use preventable as fix, we can't prevent it. We can't fix it. It has to be stopped. It has to be killed. It has to be exposed and then destroyed. It can't just be exposed, which is what we've become accustomed to. It's like, oh, look at that. Oh, they did this. Oh, this person did this. and then they're not ever held accountable. They don't go to prison. They don't die. They go to one of the networks and get a job making tons of money. It has to be stopped, and that does work with violence. It's just the way it is. But I think it can be stopped, but I don't think you can fix it anymore now.
Greg.
I think we think about power the wrong way. I think we think that when we destroy owners of power, that we gain ourselves the right to disassemble its machinery. When in fact, the way that we've structured our systems are such that like we have controls over controls at this point, right? So you get a kind of effect where once power is taken from another group and you try to destroy it by like closing a department, it doesn't go away. It just goes back to the State Department or whatever. Like it's like trying to shatter a fucking Terminator, right? A T-1000. You may freeze it in liquid nitrogen and hit it with the bullet and it shatters into 1,000 pieces, but it still goes somewhere. So you can't get rid of power by fighting it. You have to diffuse it actively. You'd have to have a system that ablates it constantly. And that's really what decentralization is all about, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I yield my time to Aaron. Aaron, is power consolidation preventable?
Well, the attempt to consolidate power is not preventable, but you can create alternatives. So, from my viewpoint, what we need to do is, one, make people aware of technocracy, because most people don't know what's going on. For instance, just since the election, we have now Real ID is digital in 8 states and rolling out. So if you think about pre-election, people were against all of these digital IDs and all these other concepts, and it passed with no resistance. We got a backdoor CBDC through the Genius Act. We have Palantir building a database of Americans. Through the One Big Beautiful Bill, we have essentially the Patriot Act 2.0, which is $150 billion being spent on further militarization of the police and on more AI and surveillance. So it's actually happening right in front of our face. And the worrisome part about it is there's no opposition. There are people sitting there, like I said, with Alex Jones, he's saying, oh, well, we're defeating the globalists. It's like, no, we're letting the globalists run at 10x pace of what Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates could ever do. And so this is the problem. People are unaware, but then more importantly, we have to build decentralized solutions very quickly. So recognizing how quickly technocracy is rolling out should give us a sense of urgency to start building decentralized, and I would argue private alternatives immediately, like not 5 years from now, today.
And alternatives to AI, right? Because they obviously haven't cracked intelligence. The human brain runs on 20 watts. It doesn't need power plants. We've got intelligence wrong. That's why they're screwing up, because they think they figured out intelligence, and they figured out something that simulates it.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Could an AI-driven governance system better serve citizens than our current government, given its corruption issues? Who would likely control or oversee the AI in such a governance system? How could blockchain technology integrate with an AI-based technocracy to create a more effective government compared to the current system? Is this our future? Well, that's a lot of questions. So it's kind of like just I think I'm gonna pass my time to Aaron on this one, but I'm gonna say that, let me play devil's advocate. AI can fix this. AI can provide a better form of government. It's like smart contracts, times infinite. So there you go. I'm gonna just, let's start with Aaron, and then I'm gonna ask everyone to pick holes in Aaron's argument. How's that? We're gonna take a little bit of a change here. Come on, Aaron. Tell us the AI governance is going to be a better way to serve our citizens over our corrupt government that we have right now.
Well, so first of all, this is one of the issues with this, and it's kind of what Musk did. So everybody sits around and says, we need less government. And what AI is being pitched as making the functions of government more efficient. But we actually don't need AI or government to perform most of the functions that government performs. And so this is the biggest, I think, framing issue with this. As to whether or not an AI governance system could be better than our current government, while it's theoretically possible, if you actually look at the people that are at the table, if you look Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, Peter Thiel, like these are, I would argue in many cases, these are sociopaths. The people that are driving this are building these AI systems in their image. And so we're not going to get an AI that, again, respects free will, respects individual rights. We're going to get some elitist top-down surveillance system. So again, while it's theoretically possible, that's not even on the table. It's kind of like
we will
saying,
understand rights as exception cases to discover.
Right. And it's kind of like with CBDCs or stable coins, you know, magically, and as much as that we've pushed this backdoor CBDC through the Genius Act, you know who won't be using stable coins? The US government will not be using stable coins. They will not be subject to the same surveillance and tracking and censorship. And so, we can expect the worst outcome of the politicians that we currently have, and then the technocrats that own them and drive them, pushing for AI into government.
They'll keep the secret laptops without audit codes. Thank you.
Lisa, what's your thoughts here? Is Aaron right or wrong?
How about Andrew first?
Okay, Andrew, is Aaron right or wrong?
I mean, it really just depends on, because these governing models are built for self-preservation of their point of view and their psychology, not, a universal solution, because you can't have universal solution because we're all built differently. It's really kind of difficult for you to, maintain consistency in any form of government. That's why we need more decentralized forms of government, like private courts and stuff like that. It's a case by case basis.
Good
point,
Lisa.
I like a lot of what Andrew had to say, and of course, we saw a lot of with these AI models. We saw them being very woke, and then even having the hysteria and all of that, and so those concerns would be there. But woke and hysteria go right hand in hand. I mean, I could call our current government a lot worse. But I don't think that either one of those things are a solution. And once again, it all goes back to us not having free will, like Aaron spoke of earlier, and stepping on our rights. I'm currently moving from one state to another, and it is being shoved down my throat and put in my face of these control mechanisms and how I'm supposed to register so that the government can claim me, my property, my businesses, all of this. And if I don't comply, I'm under quite a bit of threat to be able to participate in commerce, travel, and you should hear the little ladies at the post office and the tag agency pitching it hard, how it's going to protect me, how the government's here to protect me, and it's really feels like a violation and intrusion. They want me to re-register my marriage so that apparently right now my marriage doesn't exist.
Oh, good. You should leave it that way.
Well, we've talked about it. And
the system shouldn't see you.
Yeah, it's been a real eye-opening experience in this. And why does the government validate me, my life, my relationships, or
why is it your job to fix their records for them?
Anything to do with it? Yeah, well, and why do they need a record of my life?
We should have to validate them.
Yes, exactly, Sean. Yeah, they should be looking for us to validate.
Right.
They forget that they
get to give the same degree.
This is a servant lead. That it's not a leadership position. It's a servant position, and that's what just makes me insane. I
think you should be able to ask anybody of the individual requiring you to provide the information. Of equal depth, right? Like if they open up the question of like, well, what, give me all your tax returns. Like, okay, you first, right? The bureaucrat should just have to personally be exposed to, so that at least you're on equal footing.
Zach, what do you have to say about Aaron's comments in this question?
I think AI is a tool. I think you can use it to an advantage, but it always depends on the beholder. So I think we need to figure out ways, like we've been doing, to create alternatives that can kind of counter what government and corporatocracy and all these technocrats want to use AI and any variation of technology, such as blockchain, to their advantage for their own needs. We should be able to use it to our advantage by creating more decentralized terms. And as far as like, and then let's get to like the question, like the first question, right? I think an AI driven governance system, if done right with the right idea in mind, it can only be done on like a smaller level. So I think I'm a very big proponent of city states.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean, what say you?
Well, I think that it is like Zach said, AI is a tool. I think it's a good tool, but it all comes down to transparency, and I think that it needs to be run by the people. Just we made a more perfect union and a more perfect government, and we screwed it up. If we utilize AI but keep it the way it was supposed to be, where the government is the servant of the people, where they're not called leaders or officials, they're called servants, public servants. I mean, everything over the past 200 and change years has been pushing it back to the old way of, serfs and royalty. So I think it can be a tool, but it has to be transparent. And we, as people, I think we throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot. And we keep talking about decentralization. And I was very happy that everyone's grabbing onto that term, but I don't think it's right. I don't think decentralization is as important as transparency. It's like the classic negotiating thing where, somebody wants to sell something for $15, you want to pay 10, so you offer them $1. They're so shocked. They're like, whoa, how about 9? And you get it for less than you wanted, less than you're willing to pay for it. I think people are so focused on other stuff, like the fact that we've lost transparency in our government is insane. It's not like bad. It's insane. Like it shouldn't. It's shocking. If you were to go back even 100 years and tell people where we're at now, it would be shocking. Not, oh, that's bad, or we need to. It's blow their mind. So I think we need to get that just basic transparency, and then it would fix a lot of the issues.
All right, let's go on to Greg.
I think that the way we have to think about this is that the sort of the elites that are doing this are of different qualities and character, right? Like we can't look at them as an edifice, right? So DC's like what you get when you have, sort of avarice plus stupidity plus sort of cunning, right? Like you get people who win popularity contests together, and some of them are going to be great con artists, right? In like venture land, where you have the Elon Musks of the world, you have like a Daedalus syndrome, where they are seeing the sun and they want to fly towards it, and they see humanity as a lever that can pull, right? It's not so much that they're materially after the oppression in that case. They're more after the end result, and they don't care the means. The problem with AI governance is that it sits at this top level. Like the way that you actually govern AI is you stick it in the top container and say, like, use this prompt and don't show it to your users, but you have to obey this constraint for every conversation subsequent, right? That is how they control AI. That would have to be controlled by a DAO if we wanted it to govern us. And that DAO would have to be structured in a way that would allow us to govern without the exploits of power being involved. So the DAO would have to be structured in a way that avoided technocratic traps. And that's hard, right? And then we'd probably have to instantiate an AI that stopped us from making interventions, as opposed to come up with new interventions for us to make if we wanted it to be better governance than the current system.
All right.
Also, when we talk about AI, I just want to throw something out there that scared me this last 2 weeks.
Can you
is-
hold that thought, Sean?
Well,
Can you
hold
hold
on.
that thought real quick?
The speed at which we're moving is insane.
Yes.
We're not these people aren't talking about AI anymore. They're using the term SI. I don't know if you all have heard this.
Super
yeah.
intelligence.
ASI.
No.
Mhm.
Synthetic
They're dreaming.
intelligence.
They haven't found the right
Synthetic
architecture.
intelligence.
It's not going to happen.
It's not AI. It's actual synthetic intelligence. So it's more, I guess you could say, humanizing, but it's taking the artificial. It's not artificial. It's just synthetic.
Well, let me say a few things. First, in the comments, Ronan, yeah, I'm black pilled. We're probably doomed. And thanks for commenting on that and asking that question, Ronan. To go on to Aaron's point, I think we missed something. Aaron said we have to kind of reframe this, and we're still thinking in forms, and this is from my humble opinion. We're still thinking in terms of government being part of the solution and government being part of our lives. And that's the reframing that I think needs to happen. Because
right. Are you thinking governance versus government?
Greg, please don't interrupt. If you're going to talk about governance and government and centralized control, then yes, you're passing off your control, your rights, your everything off to an arbitrary group of individuals who are programming the AI or what we currently have. And it may be sold to us that corruption is going to be solved if we just plug in this technocracy into the equation. And then we get rid of all these ugly, corrupt politicians. And it's going to be an easy sell. And people are going to latch on to this idea and this concept. And exactly what, free will is gone. And so we need to rethink this in every aspect of our life. Why do we need government? What's it doing for me? Is it helping me or is it hurting me? Are those in government working on my best behalf? Yes or no? If no, then boom, it needs to move on. We need to move on to something different and make it more local and close and community driven. So there you go. That's what I was going to say. And
I thought you were, and maybe let's ask one more question on top of that.
Yes.
If you don't mind, because I think I can extend that a little bit. And sort of, how do we also prevent this from sliding into sort of a preventatory Ludditism? How do we stop ourselves from engaging the Butlerian jihad and becoming that kind of technocracy instead?
Mm-hmm.
I also disagree with you.
We gotta use this tool.
Not all politicians are ugly. Some of them are quite attractive.
All right. The entire coin.
Aaron, any final comments before we move on to the next question?
I was just going to say, we talked about this on my podcast on Monday. I'd given a talk a while back about America 1.0 is over. We need to start over from first principles. And at that point, I was actually saying, well, America 2.0 from first principles. And then I realized, you know what? The important thing isn't even saving America as a political entity. And anyway, the group that I was speaking to wasn't interested in this. People were like, oh, RFK is going to win and some of this other stuff. And it was surprising given who the group was. But then I've talked to Sterling Lujan a lot, who's doing a lot of work with network states, some of which are kind of moving in a technocratic direction. And what I've realized is that, we need to have a conversation about what first principles actually are. So while there are people experimenting with network states and different types of governments, people are not actually having that fundamental conversation about first principles. People aren't talking about free will. People aren't talking about the nature of government. People aren't talking about what this came up on the podcast. What is the nature of man? Is man inherently a selfish, evil, creature or not? And the point is, there are, depending on your answer to that, you get completely different governance systems and models. And so, there needs to be a proliferation of different governance structures. And I agree with you that, local is probably the way to go. But I still think that there's some foundational conversations to have about what the underlying principles are that should be revisited and not just assumed that the founders were right 250 years ago.
Right.
Or that their intent is carried through how we imagined it, for that matter.
Right.
I'm going to add something to what Aaron was saying as a Thomas. The idea of human beings, whether or not we're selfish and good, we are selfish because we're self-preserving. But at the same time, to dive into a more Aquarius idea of reality. We're all chasing the common good for ourselves, for our family, for our community. We're just trying to find something good within this world, something purposeful. So how do we garnish that idea of finding the common good and reflect it to our modern day of age with the technology that we're creating and innovating and improvising and tweaking?
National
And
divorce
probably
helps
fail
a lot
number
with
one
that.
would be to ask government to figure it out for us. Probably, that's not something we
hope
want to
not.
use government for. It's not a very good tool for that. All it knows how to do is point guns.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question while we still have Aaron here. Question: is it possible with the advancements of AI and automation, we will fall into a technocracy ruled by oligarchs? It sure it seems like that's where we're going. I'm not going to go through all the list of items here.
Yeah, I
but
think we all already answered it. This is a definite yes.
I don't think it's possible.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
actually don't. I think ultimately it's not about possible. It's about what's done to the resources in the meantime as the experiment that they're going to engage in or we stop fizzles out. Right? It's going to fail. The question is, can the people who can see that it's going to fail up front because they understand its lack of principle, can they stop it?
what do you say? What do you think, Sean? We're gonna go. We'll work our way back up.
Yeah, we've already fallen into being ruled by oligarchs in countries where there are oligarchs. It's already happened. So the fact that if they have AI as an ally, it's just we're more doomed than ever. We have to stop it. We can't really fix it anymore. Like Aaron said, we have to have a 2.0. We have to. It has to be. The house and the termites and everything. It's so bad. We have to destroy it and rebuild it. We have a great foundation. We have great plans. We have great education and intellect. We can make a better house.
What do you say, Zach?
We keep history rhymes. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, we've always been ruled by oligarchs. It doesn't matter if it's
True.
a idea of church and state combining, or whether it's the lord over the serfs over their territory, whether it's land speculators. The United States Constitution was chartered, whether it's Rome and its Senate and its patrician class. We've always been ruled, but we need to figure out
Zach.
a way. Go ahead.
One quibble. We've also always been ruled at times, in parallel with oligarchs or in juxtaposition to them, monarchs and mobs.
I want to go, instead of the quibble, I want to back him up. When it comes to history, if you think about it, those that ruled, those oligarchs did it with technology, whether it's Rome with roads or whatever. They used that technology that they had, and they used it to take control and to grow.
Yeah, and
the
that's the thing. Like
itself,
even with monarchies, you still had an oligarchy behind them, whether it's the noble, the baron class. And like the reason the Magna Carta came into fashion was because the barons rebelled against the king and said, hold up, you have no authority. You don't have that much authority there, King John. We're going to call
one more
you
wrinkle for you to consider.
So,
is the individual the fourth ruler?
Yeah, let's skip Aaron to last. Andrew.
I just want to look at this from a different point of view. Everyone knows about the singularity, right, in technology, and how we're building towards a singularity. Maybe governments are the same way. It's a contraction. It's a contraction in power and concentration, and we're going to build towards a push where everything ends up capitulating, and there's like 1,000 different interpretations of how to govern, and people just kind of naturally flock to those interpretations, what they feel comfortable with.
Like a single consciousness.
The solution space is much bigger and much more unexplored than even the ideas that are currently articulated too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, Andrew, were you done?
Just one more thing is kind of, I guess, go back to what Zach was talking about. Michael Malice has a video out a while ago, about a couple years ago, and he was talking about how some people respect the Pope and some people don't. They just say, "Okay, I'll take it into consideration and advisement." That can be the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Is that if I respect it, I will follow what you're saying. If I don't respect it, I'm just going to go on my way. And this is the kind of what I was talking about.
You know why that is? You know why that is? Because the church is infallible, but the Pope isn't. The Pope can make mistakes.
Yeah, but
Yes,
the
that's
Pope's word makes itself into the voice of the church instantaneously in doctrinal law, right? So the Pope's decrees, while they can be
Sometimes.
made in error, become a rule that then has to be treated as if it's not an error. Kind of a paradox.
All right,
Well, I
I'm
guess
gonna go.
Pope Francis was an heir.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next. Here's my point. I say on this: is it possible that we can stop this or prevent this from happening and us falling into technocracy? Zach, we all agree. You nailed it. Oligarchs have always been kind of in charge and or manipulating the system. And in today's world, oligarchs certainly are borderless and at a greater extent than they've ever been. So that's what we're up against. But really, to be honest with you, I think we're at a crossroads, a significant one, where we're down the road towards technocracy with tyrannical oligarchs in control who are controlling and manipulating the data and become the form of government. And the maybe there's a collapse, and that's the vacuum that people are attracted to. And next thing you know, we're all without free will, and we're all under this tyrannical technocracy. That's one road. The other road is more of a road towards abundance, and I'm more hopeful for and hoping for is that maybe you'll conquer this energy thing, and the energy production becomes extremely cheap, as well as manufacturing and putting different things together, and we start no longer trading our labor, our time and labor for wages, and we come more in a form of abundance without the technocracy. That's what we face. That's what's in front of us. But it's a big lift. I'm hopeful. At least I see a way out. Aaron, what do you say?
I have one on this real quick for Aaron before we go, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to throw this in because I think it's important to the point. Like the positive building concept behind this, right? We have to build some kind of system that is there when this fails. I think is what we have to do. And I just want to make sure that when we think about it, we think about it in terms of what mistakes we need to not make. That our current metaphors for power and our understanding of it have made for us. With sort of how we've lived for centuries and how we can avoid that too, I think needs to be part of the answer. Right. So just want to throw that in.
Okay, Aaron, we now have 311 people watching. We welcome all those who are watching us on various platforms. What say you, Aaron?
I mean, I'd say we're already largely a technocracy, and the concern that I want to reiterate the urgency of building these other alternatives, and I think also having this open discussion about first principles that other people can chime in and review, because I don't have any answers. I mean, I have an innate belief that we need to protect free will, but I think everything else is kind of on the table, and so I want to help create a platform where people discuss those ideas. Yeah. But the problem is that as more AI surveillance, as all of these things with digital IDs are happening, there is going to be a collapse. And the problem is if we don't have the alternatives built, people will accept the more heavy-handed technocratic solution because there's nothing else to turn to. And that's my concern. Right. There is hope, but there isn't a lot of time. And there really aren't a lot of people having these conversations. If there are, and I don't know about it, then
you're on mute.
If there are a lot of people talking about this and I'm not aware of it, I'd be happy. I'd love to learn about who they are and participate in those conversations, but we're not moving fast enough.
How much do you think it's like people having a hard time squaring the ugly problem in the face, though?
It's a perfect way to put it, that there's hope, but hardly any time. That's
Like, how many people
it
see
in
it
a
but
nutshell.
refuse to talk about it out of fear of it?
Good question.
I don't know. I don't know how many people refuse to talk about it, or how many people are just so far removed they're not even considering it. I don't know. I honestly don't
When
know.
I look around, I see dead silence when you hit somebody with an unavoidable fact of it. And that to me bespeaks of fear as opposed to an unawareness. Because if it were a situation where you hit them with some clarity and the response is anger, then it would be like, okay, people disagree that this is a problem. And I'm hitting with this the first time. But if they sit there and they just stare at it and nobody says a damn thing, that's how you kind of get a sense. I feel like it falls dead silent because, in fact, it's so fucking scary. Because it feels like we just won a hard fight and it's not even enough.
You mentioned transhumanism and technocracy, and you get a blank stare like, huh? What's that? I think for the majority of people out there are clueless, are just not exposed to these kinds of conversations. And that becomes the vacuum of power, for them to obtain even more control and manipulation of the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
there are many kinds of transhumanism, though. Let's be clear. There are many kinds of transhumanism, and the max more like hyper individualist kind that is now out of fashion is still ethically aligned with minimal government and a world that's not ruled by oligarchs, right?
Yeah. So here we go.
I'm an old school. I'm actually trying to redeem that word. I'm trying to reclaim it. I'm an old school transhumanist.
Wow. Well, this is going to be interesting because here you go. Musk puts a chip in the human brain. Question: does the panel have issues with transhumanism and technocracy, and do they think they have common goals? Transhumanism, a movement advocating the use of advanced technology, example, AI, biotechnology, cybernetics, to enhance human physical and cognitive abilities, potentially transcending biological limitations such as aging, disease, mortality. And then you add in technocracy, a system of governance where decisions are made by experts in technical or scientific fields, maybe an AI governance model, prioritizing efficiency and data-driven solutions over political and ideological considerations. Aaron, do you have a problem with transhumanism and technocracy, and do they have common goals? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
So this is one of those things. It's kind of like, well, is digital currency good or bad? Is AI good or bad? These things are not good or bad. It's about how they're being implemented. Patrick Wood actually wrote his latest book is about technocracy and transhumanism. And the problem is the people that are dominating the transhumanism movement are technocrats. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, you could argue that in crypto, the people that are dominating crypto are the people that are pushing these control systems, but there are alternatives. So there is the potential to have a form of transhumanism that is still aligned with free will, but that's not what we're getting. And I encourage people to read. Patrick Wood is the OG on this stuff. He's written 3 books. He's been following it for 45 years. I just ran into him a few years ago. I mean, so this guy should be mainstream, and he's not. I mean, he literally would call out and have debates with members of the Trilateral Commission. He's been building a database for 45 years of these people. And his latest book is fascinating when he starts talking about what's going on in Silicon Valley in terms of this Anselin group and what they've been doing, and actually even what Burning Man is all about related to all of this. Right. And so transhumanism could be good. It is not in the way that it's being pushed currently.
Aaron, interestingly, like I was part of the actual transhumanist movement when it got bad, right? Like I was in there and I got shoved out of it, basically. Like people stopped hearing my ideas. Right, like because there was this sort of push between 2010 and 2017, roughly, to take the movement away from the anarcho-libertarian mindset, where it wasn't about advocating for the use of advanced technology, but rather the advocation for no restrictions on the use of advanced technology by individuals to change themselves. Right, the primary transhumanist concern at the time was if someone in a biohacker lab invents a way to reverse aging, I'm free to use that because I'm a human, hence transhumanism. And their argument before was, well, that makes you not human, so we can write laws. Right? It was against the hubris of telling people what they oughtn't to do by force, as opposed to for the hubris of doing it by societal program.
I think one of the biggest dangers with this is that we are stupid and we don't know that much. I mean, one of the biggest things in my life was second grade, and my teacher hated me so much because I feel like I was red pilled so much in second grade when he was talking about the eye and how we see things and how we don't know anything. You know, I was like, so we don't know how we see things? It's like, well, no, light reflects and we think that this, and with the brain, I'm like, so there could be no color purple. Our brain just tells us that something's purple and we invented it. And he's like, well, technically.
Sean,
And then
before the show,
gravity, he's like, you know, blah, 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 theory. I'm like, so wait a minute, it's a theory? So we don't actually know for sure? We can't actually create gravity, blah, blah. So the thing about AI is that now they have already done this. They've fixed this. A blind person can now see with Musk's chip in their brain because the brain just tells us what we see. So the brain, if he can look at something or she can look at something and see the purple rug, then couldn't they also just make her see a purple dragon?
Exactly.
Well, they couldn't though. They couldn't though, because this is actually an experiment that's been borne out in the past. There's another like lesser known experiment from the early 2000s or middle 2000s that they had a guy put on a haptic vest that vibrated in different patterns. He was deaf from birth. This vest vibrated in different patterns based on sound. Basically. And after enough time, his brain developed a contemporaneous present sense impression of sound that approximated what he could understand language through the vibrations of this vest. And his brain conceived it as sound, like he was wearing an ear. The brain is to explain for that versatility, not the technology.
Yeah, but I can show you tons and tons of studies and videos where you'll look at it and something will be spinning this way and then it goes through a wall and you see it. You know it's not happening. You know it's an optical illusion.
Right. It's because our brains run on heuristics.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, you know, in the 50s or when imagine with something directly in your brain, it's simple, man. They can put whatever they want in there and that's just the way you're going to see stuff.
Well, having studied I'm just trying to say that having studied the computational neuroscience of it, there's a limited number of ways they can modulate it. They actually can't change its function by how they poke it unless they wire it very specifically, point to point for that. Like you wouldn't be able to do that with software.
Zach, what were you going to say?
I said there's many different ways. I mean, they can do many different ways of manipulating technology, manipulating algorithms in the code of the innovation, but at the same time, what's the use of it if you can make something good of it?
Mm-hmm. Andrew, what's your thought?
Intercept every weight at every tick. It would require an electrode in every brain cell to do it to manipulate your brain.
I mean, it's just like Geordi's visor from Star Trek. I mean, the way that it could manipulate how he can see it. It's using the electrodes in the brain to mimic what he can see through, what is it, more infrared on his visor, but he's able to see with it.
Right. Andrew, what are you
tricking people into tricking themselves?
All right, Andrew.
I'm kind of indifferent when it comes to transhumanism because it really depends on the context of the people and the society that's implementing it. Like in China, right? In China, I mean, they try to make people so devoid of an identity, and it's so gray that they can go and they can create, they're trying to create super soldiers or whatever, and through transhumanism in their science, like behind the scenes in their labs. And then you go to the United States, right? And Musk, with like Aaron was saying, like he's trying to, use his potential, his push to legitimize this form of practice in order to like say, oh, this is something we can do that's safe and it's something that's going to better society. Meanwhile, it's all different implementations, and it's really down to a case by case basis, and it's a dangerous thing, but it's also something that has a lot of potential for growth. So
can I now make a quick comment here? I'm going to put the timer back up so I try to keep 60 seconds. Here we go. the idea of if we do get it to the point where the chip is linked to an AI and you have all of this information and it can safely be put in the brain, but it's a very expensive procedure. Then what you got is you have just a select few who can afford this expensive procedure to have this amazing amount of information at a quick
But
thought.
see LASIK.
And
though,
no, hold
right?
on, Greg. And the point is now that means that those individuals are going to, it's almost like watching, let's say football and watching someone who's on steroids and the rest of the team who isn't. They're going to be the shining star in the field. And now, is that person or those groups of people who can afford that chip, are they going to be, benevolent with this technology and how they use it and apply it to the masses? This is what we're going to be facing. Go ahead, Greg.
That's why it has to be scalable. That's why it has to be manufacturable at scale. If we want everyone to have access to it, then the thing has to be developed in a way that it can be sold to the masses at scale.
I don't think that's going to be our decision.
Some other distribution mechanism. Well, no, I think it will be, because I think we haven't cracked AI. I think when we talk about AI, we're talking about LLMs. I think LLMs, I've come to this conclusion recently, by the way, just from my own interrogation of LLMs. I don't think they're anymore that they are the path to intelligence in the sense that we think of intelligence. I think that we can scale them infinitely and simulate intelligence in useful ways with them, up to the point at which the energy expenditure becomes a problem, right? But I don't think it's going to crack the way that you would have a machine that was properly designed to reproduce intelligence would, right? Like, you won't get accelerating returns with this thing. You'll get diminishing ones where you need more and more power to get less and less.
Aaron, what do you think? Aaron, are you ready to get a chip in your brain?
Well, no, I'm not ready to get a chip in my brain. I mean, under kind of Musk's model, I don't know. I'm kind of, part of me is moving away from tech, and then part of me is not. I mean, I use AI all the time, but then I'm trying to move away from wearables. It's just so.
Well, no, certainly right now it doesn't make sense, right? Too many companies own them.
It doesn't make sense right now, but I'd consider it under the appropriate circumstances, just like I experiment with technology all the time, right? Privacy coins and AI, but I wouldn't do something as invasive as that based on the technology that's out there and the people that are behind it right now, because that's a pretty potentially irreversible situation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, look, I've got to go. I do apologize.
I want to be back to normal. Can't do that.
Yeah. I do apologize. I got to get going now. I'm running a bit behind.
No problem, Aaron. I'm looking forward to your show tonight about Xano. Again, where can we find you? Yes. Where can we follow you?
You can find me. I've launched a bunch of different sites. You can go to theaarondayshow.com. It's actually a good place to go. And then I'm going to be launching a new website tonight for building projects on Xano.
Excellent.
Nice.
And your conversations with Miss Turner have been very fascinating. I really enjoyed those. So
I'm going to be working with Xano too. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. And when you were on the roundtable with Patrick Wood, that was phenomenal. I enjoyed your conversation with Professor Dave Collum. What's his name?
Collum or David Collum. Yeah.
With the other gentleman. I'm horrible with names. My apologies. But your recent podcasts have been just really outstanding. I appreciate your work.
Super fire.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
And just the will to keep going through this shit, man. You're holding up a pillar that needs to be held up.
Absolutely.
Aaron, I'm going to have a roundtable discussion on privacy in general. So if you want to jump on, it'd be appreciated.
Yeah, let me know. Reach out. Happy to.
Okay, I will.
All right, guys. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks again, Aaron. Appreciate you.
Bye.
All right, for the 324 people out there watching
dangerously intelligent human being, everybody should follow that guy.
Yes, you please follow Aaron Day.
Yes.
And also
and
Patrick Wood. If you really want to dig into this whole technocracy, Patrick Wood, like he said, is the OG. So, all right. Are we ready?
And if you haven't already, you probably live under a rock.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's sad it's a
I'm
real
not
thing
familiar.
that someone could be.
Well, I mean,
dangerous.
under a rock, the internet's probably not very good because you can't get
Probably not.
a satellite connection from underground, and that'd probably be like the only decent way to get a good internet connection in Iraq. I don't know. Are any Iraqis in the audience that can refute me?
All right,
Depends on the
everybody.
rock.
Here is our last
Yeah, that's
question.
right.
It
I went
gets us into the blockchain space. This is a blockchain show, World Blockchain Roundtable. Again, thanks everybody for watching. I'd like to
Pitch a little anyway.
push this over 400. So like and share and talk it up if you want to know a little bit more about technocracy. And now we're going to talk about the intersection between blockchains and AI and technocracy.
Hey, doesn't the timer kick off at under 5?
Whoops,
or at 5? Or under 6?
I got to take that off. My apologies.
There you go.
How can interconnected blockchains mitigate the risk of power consolidation at the top of a technocratic system? Who would like to go first on this one?
I'll take this first. A
Jack.
web of decentralized mechanisms of privacy coins and tokenization.
Good one.
Interlinking with each other. So I'll let y'all expand and elaborate.
Andrew, can you expand on Zach there? Come on,
Well,
you both are legacy, right? You probably got an AI chip connected to each other.
Yeah, well, it's like this, okay? It's like Zach is always asking, if we're all on using the blockchain and everything, and the power goes out, then no one has control.
That's funny.
I disagree. I think there's ways to use the blockchain without the power, actually.
Well, I mean, power doesn't go out permanently, right? I guess you could hypothetically go find yourself a battery from the burnout husk of an Amazon warehouse and create a handmade generator that you could occasionally crank to the right level, and you can slowly charge.
You don't even have to do that.
Turn back on the chain and grab a block on a splinter net that you create of one. Basically, you can do it.
I watched Gilligan's Island. I know how to make radio one.
Oh man,
the cool thing is it's stateful, so it comes back as it was when you come back with it, right?
By the way, I was a
back
fan
on,
of
the
Mary
blockchain
Ann.
can resume.
Mm-hmm.
I like the goal.
Greg, how do we interconnect blockchain to mitigate the risk of a technocracy system?
We do it with the important thing here, I think, is twofold. The centralized infrastructure is number one, right? We can't have blockchains forever running on hosted hardware, right? It can't work like that. But we also can't have everybody on Earth suddenly commit to buying server space, unless maybe we come up with a clever way to install servers into, or like repurpose the compute in electric cars or something like that. You could hypothetically, but if you want to do this the right way, you have to make sure that the infrastructure comes up in decentralized marketplaces, right? So that, Rivet figures out how to do node infrastructure. We open source it, and other people can fork our code and run it the same way we do to get the same result. And so we aren't the only people who can run reliable infrastructure. And if you put that into a networked marketplace, coordinated by blockchain, then you can make the provision of those services so seamless when you switch that the marketplace makes it impossible to reliably disrupt things by censoring the infrastructure. And that takes the influence of power out of the possibility of manipulating the information stream. The second thing is open source. And that is any of these blockchains, if they're running on open source code and the network decides, 55 to 45 consensus of miners, whatever's necessary to pass to adopt a hard fork, right? They all decide, hey, we're going to adopt this hard fork that changes things in a technocratic way that this other 45% gets oppressed by. They can fork the code, run the same exact protocol, and rerun the vote themselves. And then there are two protocols sitting in superposition to one another that take one side of the issue and the other, and the markets will decide which one succeeds. It's beautiful.
Will the market decide?
But it requires a right of exit, which in software is fork.
Here's
so
my
pushback. Has to be part of it.
Here's my pushback, Greg. Will the market succeed? Because if these technocrats are wealthy and powerful, and they're the AI OGs, are they couldn't they suppress the market, or
No,
your attempts
can't.
of creating a parallel system? Couldn't they suppress that or stomp it out?
They can
And
try.
the masses are going to go follow them anyway. They got them by the hook anyway,
They
because
can
they're
try, but
controlling
then
the money printers.
they're not really controlling so much as dominating, right? There's a big difference. The dominance only matters with respect to the system's metaphors as they exist. If you invent a parallel system that, or if a million different communities invent parallel systems simultaneously, rather, it becomes a game of whack-a-mole that no technocracy can win, so long as there is a right of exit that they can't enforce against. And so stopping open source would be the only way that they could take this kind of control, because otherwise someone will smuggle a fork off into some dark network they set up themselves, develop in the shadows with their friends who disagree, and it will happen whether or not they allow it, right? That's just human nature. It's like if you try to eradicate the wild boars in the southwest of the United States, what ends up happening is you create a pocket industry that perpetuates them.
Right.
We can't solve it, or they can't solve complexity by brute force, and they keep trying. And the fact that they keep trying is the reason that ultimately there will be spaces where naughty men like us can slip about and make trouble, I guess.
Sean, I think you nailed it earlier when you talked about transparency is really key, and that's what blockchain brings to this part. To this, fight against technocratic system. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, if you really think about it, I mean, that's what we've lost. You can say we've lost freedom or this or that, but it's all, when it all boils down to it, it's transparency. Transparency is what was taken away. Transparency, I mean, we lost freedoms and so on with the Patriot Act, but it also is because the government was made to be so transparent, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my train of thought, but yeah, it's all about transparency.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, what do you think? How can blockchain mitigate this risk?
Well, not directly, but indirectly. If, say, legacy payment processors just had to, by law, shut down their payment processing network for a small period of time, forcibly, people use blockchain and connect to that and get used to that. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but that's just one way that you could see it start transitioning.
Yeah. Zach, what are your thoughts?
On the interconnected blockchain,
To mitigate the risk of a technocratic system.
Transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency on the overt and competition on the covert.
Nice agorism there.
Yep.
Principle. I like it. Parallel systems. I
mean, I can add another solution too. I mean, we get back into the mentality of the essence of being human in solidarity ethics and corresponding with each other on a voluntary level, for which what we do in ourselves upon our own property to effectively make ourselves better in society, we give back to those who are less fortunate in supporting them and platforming them to do better on their own right. Not like a welfare system where just give them a handout because I'm successful here. No, like actually help them get back up onto their own rights so that they can do the same thing as we are doing. So I think
don't build stopgaps anymore where systems prevent community from feeling like they have a stake in individual outcomes. Like, so you're right, you're absolutely right. Finding that's an interesting actually, I think, point to add on, right? That we should probably be also thinking about reawakening the ideals that make us more human, right? That
I would
teach us to act in ways that respect the inalienability of self-ownership and of the unique dignity of each individual as the final unit and the only unit that decides and acts.
I would also I would say if you want to learn how you can put all this together, I would read I'm gonna butcher it. Nova Rerum by Pope Leo XIII. Read Samuel Edward Konkin and his works, and then apply it to history as well. And then
And Teilhard de
read
Chardin.
the white that too. And then read the white paper, the original white paper of Bitcoin. And let's plug it all together.
I'm gonna kind of
It's the
prevention.
ghost.
You said I'm gonna, and your head disappeared perfectly.
It's my camera. When I hit my desk or bump my desk, I think I got a bad cord. That's funny.
Your
I
shirt
was
was there.
on a podcast and we were talking about AI, and I was on with Mark Pools and on If by Whiskey a few Mondays ago, and I kept cutting in and out. But anyway, my point is, in the interconnection of blockchain in this whole thing is, yes, definitely transparency, but it's all about building parallel systems and making the government less relevant in our lives. And I think that's how we're going to have to fight it.
That and faith in each other as individuals that can act.
And what you were talking about, Greg and Zach, and you're talking about first principles again, and what Aaron brought up, and I think Lisa brought up too, it really comes back down to if there is a collapse and we're going to rebuild this, we don't want to rebuild and have a vacuum where these oligarchs, obtain even more control, more power, and usurp our rights and trample over us. Well, then we're going to need to think about now is the time to start building those parallel systems with first principles in mind. But when they turn
realizing that our first task
technocracy
is going to be to break down the Terminator and diffuse its power before it
Yeah.
crystallizes back in,
First
right?
principles.
Otherwise we'll just get a pure killing machine when it rematerializes.
Right. And when you think about, they're going to try to sell. There you go. Here, Sean or Zach, you're going to understand this one. What they're going to do is they're going to make technocracy the new religion, rather than, let's say, the U.S. Constitution is a religion, or the three branches of government is a religion, and the office of the presidency is a religion. All that's going to be replaced with the new religion is a better religion, and it's technocracy, and this is who should be in charge, and we're going to plug in AI to be in charge of everything and everybody, and it will be objective. It'll be based off of code is law, and we're going to hear all of these wonderful things about it.
Considering Bletchley Park.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy, I think. And that's where our job is, to have these conversations, and welcome the 337 people that are watching us on various platforms right now. Go out and spread the world. It doesn't have to be an ugly dystopian future where we have the opportunity. We have the ability to have programmable money now, and not in the hands of a few powerful individuals who are setting the interest rates and setting the inflation rate that we're having, and printing money out at, to where there's no scarcity anymore, and creating that inflation. We have programmable money capabilities now.
That's the big thing, is that we have
of things that we can do.
The power. We haven't had that in mankind for, hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe thousands.
Right.
Where the people had control over the money.
Right. And when we think in those terms, it gets exciting, because you can, it's an easier sell, because you can sell, hey, here's your future dystopian technocracy, where free will is destroyed, or we could still have AI abundance where energy is practically free, manufacturing is and materials is practically free, because we've, AI has cracked the code as far as AI, on a molecular level of creating whatever, a new coffee type mug that's cheap, whatever. So we could have a life of abundance and not fall into the trap of technocracy. That's
Star Trek. That's Star Trek right there.
No, it's not even Star Trek.
It's
Dan Simmons. It's the Ousters.
A couple of years ago, we did almost have a rug pull in a federal overnight Feds rate, because they weren't meeting the rate percentages appropriately, and they had to directly intervene, and that could happen again. I mean, it's a rug pull just waiting to happen.
Right.
And that's
Right.
that's a weakness of the system is right there, is that the whole system could crash because they didn't act in time.
Yeah.
So I say to you people, you lovely people watching us today, take this evangel of WBRT, or wait, yeah,
WBRT, World Blockchain
yeah.
Roundtable.
World Blockchain Roundtable. Do not be afraid, and from now on, you will be catching men.
There you go. There you go. Well, all right. I think that I don't know, unless you guys want to make any more final comments on this subject, we can move on to current events. I'll probably be more silent during current events for various reasons. But anybody would like to any more comments about technocracy and our future and blockchain?
Not particularly. No, not at this time.
Okay, we solved those world problems now. We just got to go out and do the work, the heavy lift.
Exactly.
I'm curious
All right.
if this is like way too obscure a reference, or if anybody else in the audience has ever like read Hyperion Cantos. Now, I want to know if you guys out there, have you heard of Hyperion Cantos?
No.
No.
Hyperion. I'm writing it down.
Author from Colorado, Dan Simmons, wrote a 4-book series starting with Hyperion, then Fall of Hyperion, then Endymion and Rise of Endymion.
Oh, it's a fiction novels, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a faction in it.
Didn't you talk about it in your podcast with Zach and Andrew?
Did we? Did we go into it?
I believe you might have mentioned it.
I think you may have
I'd have to go back. Yeah, I'd have to go back. It was either, I think it was last week's episode, actually.
It's a grand arc grappling with technocratic authority and theocratic authority over the course of 4 volumes, essentially. But it looks at all of human history and says, like, what happens if humans become dependent on AI?
Is it the book that has the Warhammer guy in it?
The which guy?
The Warhammer guy. He's
No,
on the one planet.
I think you might be right. There's
I've read the first one.
There's a creature called the Shrike involved.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
The one that moves outside of time. Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
Now the other interesting thing about and there are tons of interesting things about this book, by the way, for people who the series, for people who haven't read it. But the one I wanted to highlight was the Ousters. They're an interesting faction. These are the human beings who said, no, your dependence on AI is dangerous and scary, and we're leaving. So they set out and sort of evolved to live in space around like a flotilla of comets that they would, cultivate and use to generate the resources needed to grow food and stuff like that. And over time, got to the point where they evolved their biologies to map their environments as opposed to map their environments to the biologies, right? So the Ousters, rather than take control of the external, took precise control over the internal. So instead of spaceships, there are variants of Ouster who they call angels, right? And their skin is a polymer that is safe in vacuum, and they can spread wings that go far enough that they can fly on electromagnetic currents from stars around solar systems, right? These were biological adaptations, though. They changed their biology. And I think
reminds me of that Avatar movie.
That's the way that people misapprehend transhumanism without technocracy, and in a way, like, and one of the solutions we could have is to hyper individualize and let people have all the powers themselves, as a way to grow as a species, so long as we didn't focus on external control and rather on internal ownership.
I want to hit on 2 things that happened in the past week or so.
Okay, cool. Let's move on.
For us, because I think it's kind of cool. And one thing I didn't really even think about, so you just said something. You said making government less relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Trump's made it a nominee for the chairman of the Fed. And he said that he's going to keep his White House and government job while he does it. Like, it's not that big a deal. I can keep my job and still. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's less relevant. And as far as building parallel systems, and if they're not going to do it, we'll do it. The Jeffrey Epstein list, biggest thing in the world, everybody in the world, not just the United States.
Right now,
much where they're going to do it, they're not going to do it. Government, help us. We'll elect you to office if you will give it to us. Oh, please. nothing. It's just a carrot they dangle. And now all of the victims have come together and say, hey, we know everyone. We're going to make the list and give it to everybody. They're going to build the freaking list. The people that have the know-how, they're going to build the list and put it out.
The victims
Yeah.
are going to build the list.
Victims came together. They all came together like, hey, we know everybody. We're going to make the list for you. We're going to publish it. Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other, people in government are like, hey, yeah, we're going to support this.
I don't like that.
There's some danger here. This could have some stage left.
The danger is they could be sued into silence or even worse, but most likely sued into silence. They need to let like Massey and Green do their thing because they do under the speech clause of the United States Constitution. They're a little safer to bring it up against the House.
Suppose though. Here's a supposition for you, just a dark supposition to pique your curiosity. I don't know if this is true, but how things could be that the elite, not happy with the spoils of that they've already exploited from this whole scandal, devise a clever plan to incentivize victims to grassroots organize to expose people that are mostly on the list with some targets that they'd also like to drag down.
So that could be a ploy.
It could be an acceptable trade to take out enemies. We could be facilitating a net benefit for the elite agenda by supporting it too. So that's possible.
Effective.
Yeah, but they'd have to have some connection. They'd have to have some connection to Epstein in order to be taken credibly. So who gives a fuck?
They've got a lot of leverage over victims.
I'm sorry, I had to do that, Sean. Greg.
They've got a lot of leverage over the victims, though, right? So, that's the thing.
So effectively, they could be using this to loom over all of our heads, and the victims are just tools to.
No, because we don't have.
It could be bait to a trap that we are going to have no choice but to fall into because of the way we react to this issue as a society.
And then meanwhile, we're probably going to war against Russia for Poland.
Right. Well, and anything that makes a human being hot under the collar is an avenue for exploit by the elite. Just keep that in mind. Probably a pro tip for everybody.
I gotta say that's fairly interesting because I guess there's some things going on in Poland. I guess Trump is promising to reinforce more troops, more American forces in Poland, and I don't know. Poland's just done with everything, and it looks like we're highly anticipated for World War III, guys.
What we're told is meant to be heard by us. So I'll remember that.
And then you have the Epstein bullshit pop up again, and yeah.
The two things I wanted to mention was, Europe is so bankrupt and so much trouble. Like the conversation about the UK, maybe looking for a loan from the IMF, which is basically the US, and that that whole thing, and UK maybe falling into CW, Civil War for the UK, over the whole migration and the lack of, the loss of the British culture, shall we say. The second thing I wanted to mention was the International Association of Genocide Scholars, the IAGS, the world's leading association of genocide scholars, has declared that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. So
that's a big deal, man, for those circles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To have that,
but it's also old news, right? Everyone knows instinctively it's genocide.
Yes, exactly.
This isn't the UN,
money, but still needed a government to adopt it and say it was money. So that's kind of that. It's the legitimization of it.
Well, but you don't legitimate money that way either, right? That's how you legitimate government.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because we don't like some of these people, like the WHO and all this, and then we do like it when they speak up. But let me tell you who the IAGS is. Again, it's the International Association of Genocide Scholars. It is the world's largest professional association of genocide scholars, who includes a number of Holocaust experts. Out of 500 members, 28% took part in the vote, and 86% of those voted support of the resolution. So that means that there's a lot of them that did not vote of the 500.
Yeah.
But
And
of those
all of
who
them are
voted, and
Columbia
therefore I
trained,
guess it was considered
you
a
know, like-
quorum, and it was decided upon per vote that something like you said, John, we all have known.
Right.
But
Whenever they say
it is a
expert, though, they also mean
substantial-
Columbia trained, right? So it's definitely all academia in the Ivy.
Right. And I don't know if that's going to stop it or end it, but
Well, the fact that you
same
have
with same with
Holocaust
Ukraine,
experts
you
and
know.
Holocaust survivors voting against Israel, that's even more of a big deal.
Well, it's Jew versus Zionist Jew. That's what it comes down to.
Nobody makes that point.
Yes.
I
Yep.
try to make that, but nobody makes that point. Yeah.
I just
Like
did
Dave Smith does.
again. We all do it again. Yeah.
Well,
We're supposed to be calling them Belgium.
Oh, Belgians. Oh,
Dave Smith
sorry,
is
sorry,
supposed to
I had the
actually a Jew
wrong
that makes
country.
that point, actually.
Belgians. Oh,
I mean, basically, the Israeli government is basically just a pimp, right? And
It's
Gaza
a nation state. It has nothing to
yeah.
do with ethnicity.
Yeah, but it's
I mean,
they're just abusing.
It's a machine
Yeah.
for the channeling of power into force exercises that have to do with titular laws and the backing administrations that pretend they're enforcing them. Right?
But I
Well,
would like to
I'm gonna
present the
I'm
MAGA
gonna
point of
push
view.
back on that.
I would like to present the MAGA point of view. First of all, going back to the Epstein list, that's a Democratic hoax, one. And two, I can understand Israel's winning the war, but they're losing the votes in Congress. I don't understand.
I will push back on
The
the
only war that is
view
won
of
is the
Israel.
one that is quit.
Israel was effectively established as a Jewish state.
It was.
Now I get it. There is some nuance in the issue, but
Mhm.
Man.
I heard too at one point they were talking about, wow, we hit 350. Thank you, everybody. We were talking about, at one point before the Balfour Declaration, there was conversations about where to set it up. Maybe it should be set up in Australia.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be set up in Africa. Different places, around the world.
They were offered, I think, like 4
Mhm.
locations that they turned down.
Mhm.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's all theater in international law, right?
yes.
Because international law, this is what floors me, is like people say international law as if it were a body of law similar to how we have laws in states versus nations, right? It's not a similar hierarchy, right? There's no
team.
enforcement mechanism at the top. In fact,
It's
there's
anarchy.
an ongoing game for the last ever since nation states were invented, where they all pretend not to be trying to get that from one another. Right? Like literally the game is take the international and enforce a law. And the dance of that game is what we call international law right now. And it's basically just, it's a fabrication designed mostly to get people at the national and local level to pretend like the laws that we say are international laws are in fact laws and follow them.
Interesting. So basically, I mean, if international law was actually infallible, then Putin and Netanyahu, who are actually indicted for war crimes right now, you should be able to just go in and get them, or go arrest them. They can't.
You would think.
Because
You would
that's
think.
Right.
not how
If
it
this
works.
were a system that worked like that, yeah. Every war criminal, right? Boom.
Look at
In
that.
jail.
It's disappearing.
Yeah, I know. It's
And in fact, if we could make it easy to catch them, we could even lower the penalties. We could make enforcement easier to justify. We could just put them in the stocks for a month.
You can see that reflected in the way
That'd
that our
fix
government
most of the
works in the
leaders,
United
right?
States, right? Is that
Shaming
the
punishment.
Republicans and Democrats have both agreed not to pursue legal charges against the opposite party. It's the same way.
But
I think we need to
also,
bring back
what's very
shaming
interesting is that, like, those
Until Trump.
people can go to that body and nothing will happen. Like Putin and Netanyahu can go to the UN and make a speech, and they won't get in trouble. But this is something that came up when Putin met Trump in Alaska, and people were like, "Why are you going here? And why is it here? Why?" And then it came up that Putin can't go to several countries because they will arrest him because that's a real. They have a real warrant with a real infrastructure. So it shows how little credibility and teeth the UN has that you could actually have a warrant from the UN and then go to the UN and nothing can happen.
It's like George Bush, he can't go to Canada because they'll arrest him in Canada.
Right.
Is that true?
But well, I mean,
I didn't know that.
I heard
Really?
that. I've heard that.
they won't
I've
actually.
heard that too. I didn't know that was true. Yeah.
They won't
But
do
they
it.
got a new PM.
Part of the dance of the international law literally is hinting that you might do that while never doing it.
Yeah.
The only people that will actually arrest are people like Graham Lynham, right? Comedians will go to jail.
Wow.
I think it's time to bring back Coney 2012.
Oh my God.
I personally think what we need to do about the Graham Lynham situation is liberate the United Kingdom. We can get out of Ukraine. We can get out of fucking Gaza. We can go fix an ally, and we can actually live up to our fucking ideals we claim for once.
Do you know
If
how
we're actually going to be a militaristic
insane that would
superpower,
be, dude?
then why are we not
If we
fucking
showed up
freeing
in
those
Europe,
poor people?
in Britain,
They're being
or in
tyrannized.
England, and just like,
I'm not
hey
fucking
man,
kidding.
we're here to
Because we are the
We're
horror
big stuff.
Babylon.
we're taking over.
Yeah, no, your era of tyrannizing your people is over. We're shutting down your censorship systems. You can keep home rule, but you can't have that. Sorry, bitches. Empire for real.
Something I've known about the England thing and the UK thing is that the people are turning against the police.
Yes.
There's no more.
Finally.
Oh, it's just law enforcement. Oh, they're stuck in the middle. It's
I feel like they join
hey,
us.
if you do this, you're now the enemy. You are the enemy of the people. You're just a thug.
Yeah.
We no longer look at you with
Gangbangers.
respect.
What do
Right.
you think would happen in the
It's
UK
gotten
if we
so
sent the
bad.
same amount of weapons to them that we sent to Ukraine?
Here's one. I think I've mentioned it on the show before, but the dog cat scenario, when two cats are fighting, a dog will break up the two cats fighting. I'm going to say something. I would argue that if the US government was truly a ethical and just government that wanted to prevent and stop wars around the world, it would step in with its mighty power and military and step in and say, Kiev, we're going to bomb you to hell. Moscow, we're going to bomb you to hell. We're going to, whatever it takes, you're going to stop this war now. And we would be the dog between two cats fighting.
Right.
And the same would be true between, Hezbollah and the IFF, the Belgians.
And
So,
the UK
if we were
and
really
that poor
a
little girl who
powerful-
was assaulted by someone and then thrown in jail for recording it.
Yeah, if we were really a powerful, if we were the big dog and there were cats fighting and we wanted peace in the world, we would flex our muscles that way. But no, we pick sides and we become interventionalists. We even go to nation building and all this other BS that's strayed far, far away from the original, intent of the Constitution. That's but I just want to say for the record, I love my government. I love my government.
Speaking of intent,
but if you want
and
proof how much it cares
in
about
the
freedom,
UK,
just look at
Fuck
what
my
it does
government.
in response to the UK.
Thinking of the UK and intent, I think it's interesting that they're talking about culture and the culture is so different, and Britain's losing its culture. That guy filmed that little girl from his own perspective to show the world how terrible this is, and it literally had the complete opposite effect, because there's the Scottish roustabout standing there plucky with her knife and her axe, and it was like no one, they couldn't get that, but every British person is like, oh, that's who we are. That's who we are. Put a kilt on her.
Their backs are
William
against the wall
Wallace
over
was
there.
7
Those
feet
voices are
tall,
getting to us.
and he could shoot fire from his arse.
Yeah.
This is what happens when wars take place, is that they scare the bejeebers out of, the population and the government, and they're in such, backpedaling. They keep backpedaling, and they just eventually, get to a point where there's no returning to any sense of normalcy, and it's all gray
Let's-
and there's no color, and the whole system collapses. It happens time and again. Every time there's a war, look at China.
Yeah.
Look at United States. We had the Civil War. It was pretty World War II. Look at England. Look at Germany.
World War
It
I was
always
bad, too.
falls apart.
Look at
And
look
they
at
cascade
Mexico,
too,
they
right?
should
Like,
be.
World War One gave us World War Two in a sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
just-
look at Mexico. Mexico's about to be. I think it's this month. They'll be celebrating their Mexican independence. But look what their whole country has gone through since independence from Spain.
September 12th.
Multiple in September 12th. Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't know, man. The world really is. I'm gonna go with this comment right here. The world is broken. It's kind of a shame because, like, look at the world now. Like, we have little girls in England having to walk around with axes and knives to make sure they don't get raped.
Yeah, that shit's supposed to only happen in Kill Bill movies, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
kind of-
innocence
yeah.
isn't being protected,
Well,
unfortunately.
what bothers me the most about the UK is the
lost.
signal that is not getting to us. Like, remember in pandemic time when we had the heavy-handed governance crisis of 2020 over some bioweapon they accidentally created. I forget what it was called, but they sort of oppressed the entire world into silence about this thing, right? So we couldn't talk about it.
Right.
We couldn't say anything about it. And the outside view, right, from anybody who was in a country that wasn't hypothetically being censored within an inch of their lives at that point on the subject, you wouldn't hear, except for like the dissent signals they held up to show the world, right? They'd punish a dissenter, and that's when you'd hear about the dissent.
Right.
Not the dissent going on where people are shouting at the top of their lungs into the deboosted void, right? About what's happening to them, and that's what scares me is how much we're not seeing under the surface in places like the UK and Ireland right now. Those people are probably suffering way more than we know. I mean, how many arrests? Like hundreds of thousands of arrests for social media posts. Some of them just retweets. Got people prison sentences longer than convicted pedophiles. It's
so I
messed
haven't
up.
counted
Like,
Thank You.
those people actually kind of
They made a
need to be
joke and they
liberated.
arrested them.
Like, not even kind of. Those people need to be liberated. It's probably way worse than we know.
Well, they did hold a journalist for a long time just because we asked him to for no crimes.
Yeah.
And he almost died. It's like the Alex Jones thing. It all starts with just one thing, and it doesn't take long. It's like a couple years, and look where your country is. Look where we are. Sky Anime said, have you looked at what's happening in Burkina Faso? No, because they don't report on it. You have to really look at it.
I got an article up on it.
Well, we gotta be quick. We're at
And good odds.
1:52.
Good odds. What we hear will be filtered by people who want us to hear a certain thing too.
I'm
That's the
gonna
other thing.
put the timer up, guys. We got 60 seconds to talk about this last topic. Go ahead, Zach. What's the article? What's going on over there?
Can you bring it up there, William?
Oh yeah.
I guess
We got to be quick though.
Yeah,
would it be better to talk about this next week?
Wait, no.
We definitely should. We definitely should
Yeah.
look at it. But I guess the officials have passed something about pertaining towards
No,
like
listen to this.
security
Listen
and
to this.
confidential.
You can get the whole gist of it from this sentence. This collaboration sets up the foundation for stronger technical cooperation between the two entities, ensuring that every step of Burkina Faso's digital transition is aligned with international standards of privacy and accountability. Those international standards, those are set by fucking censorious, globalist, technocrat assholes.
Yes.
Welcome to what this actually is telling you.
Under the guise of safety and security.
Of course, they're testing the rough edges off in Africa.
In Africa.
You fucks.
Yeah.
But nobody's paying attention.
This guy in Burkina Faso, he is not your usual leader. He is much more Gaddafi-ish.
Right.
He's much more like, screw you. I don't care. I'm going to do what's best for my country.
As we're presented it anyway, right?
We're going to have to dig into that later.
Sponsored.
We definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
Thanks. I'll look into that. Thanks for that pointer.
Yeah, please. All right. We're going to.
And that'll be Monday, by the way.
Right. Sean, we're going to start with you. We're going to go down to Greg, Zach, Andrew, and back to me. We're going to kind of do a backwards Z. How's that? We got 3 minutes.
Speaking
Please don't take up 3 minutes, Sean.
like I said, I'm talking about Xano a lot more. I'm going to have a roundtable discussion, like a big one about privacy in general, privacy coins. Hopefully it'll be like a long one. I'm sure some guys from here are going to be there, hopefully. But I'm wanting to do that and talk about, coins like Xano, what Litecoin is doing, Monero, and the importance of privacy in general. But then, like we talked about, money, having control over that in that aspect of privacy. Check me out over on YouTube, Satoshi Sean, and on X and all that. Got some shows coming out. Just reviewed a game. Oh crap! I gotta put that live. About dragons, matter of fact. So
Cool.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Pretty cool. It's free.
Greg.
Well, looking into Burkina Faso is probably what I'm going to be up to going forward here. But what I'd like everyone to do is go and pick up from my page at Design Heretic on X. Very first post, it's big banner. It says Law Zero. And you can listen to the audiobook, you can download the PDF, you can download the EPUB, and then come tomorrow and listen to me talk to Andrew and Zach in our part 3 grand trilogy of Law Zero episodes with the Legacy Right. That's where you guys should go next.
Super. Zach.
Something tells me this might end up becoming a quadrology. There probably will be a part 4.
There were 12 chapters in the book, and it was too short by half. So
yeah. So, but yeah, go ahead. Check us out tomorrow for Weekly Legacy. We will be diving more in plucking into Greg's mind about Law Zero once again for part 3, and then tune in for Legacy News as we round out. Getting to 100 episodes is what we're on track for, so we can end it and scrap it and just go down to less shows. We're going to talk a little bit on the Burkina Faso ordeal that's going on. That needs to be talked about. So tune into that on Monday and tune in tomorrow. And then anywhere else that you, if you can't make it for the live, watch it or listen to it anywhere that you like your podcast. So other than that, Andrew, anything?
Check us out tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Central, and hit me up on X at AICona90. That's about it.
All right. I'll finish off, everybody. Again, thanks to Aaron for joining us. Excuse me. And Litecoin Lisa. I guess got matter in my mouth. Drink some more water or something here. Clear my throat.
She said.
Free Roger Ver.
Matter. There we go. Matter is the token for Den.Social, and I encourage everyone to. All it takes is an email to sign up. We're in the transition of possibly soon having a rebranding and a whole new action thing happening there. So take a look at Den.Social. It's essentially a poly market on every post. Fascinating stuff. And I thank everybody for watching us here on the World Blockchain Roundtable. We hit almost 370 today. And next week's show is about non-financial applications of blockchain tech and how to increase exposure of such use cases. So applications of blockchain tech to increase exposure, non-financial. So there you go. That is next week's show. We hope you come back and join us. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And to take us out, we're going to end the stream today. Thanks again for Aaron and Lisa for joining us. Follow them, please. We'll go out with the words of John McAfee. Thanks, everybody.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.